you ever get the weird feeling that someone's watching you? Not just in a creepy horror movie way, but in that every single thing I do is being tracked kind of way. Well, let me tell you, that feeling isn't just in your head. It's real. And it's happening right now, 24/7, through that little device sitting in your pocket or on your desk, your smartphone. Now, I know what you're thinking. Come on, it's just a phone. It's there to help me stay connected, take selfies, and watch cat videos. Sure, that's what it's supposed to do, but there's a darker side to this handy gadget that most people don't even realize. The government, with all its tech-savvy brilliance, has turned our smartphones into the ultimate spy tool. And most of us have no idea how deep this surveillance rabbit hole goes. The government, with its vast resources and sophisticated technology, is monitoring your every move, your every word, and even your private moments. Through that little device in your hand, your smartphone, they have turned the world into one giant surveillance network. And the craziest part? Most people have no idea this is happening. Stick around, because what we're about to reveal will change the way you see that innocent-looking gadget forever. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. But before that, make sure you've subscribed to our channel. You might think government surveillance is a new thing, something that just popped up in the age of the internet. But no, governments have been keeping tabs on people for as long as they've existed. The only difference is that, back in the day, it was a lot less high-tech. Remember old stories about kings and emperors sending out spies to gather intel on their enemies or even on their own people, just to make sure nobody was plotting an assassination attempt. Fast forward a few centuries, and things got a little more sophisticated. The Cold War era was like a James Bond movie come to life, minus the cool gadgets and martinis. Governments were tapping phones, intercepting mail, and using every trick in the book to keep an eye on potential threats. And let's not forget about programs like PRISM, which Edward Snowden so kindly blew the whistle on. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck is PRISM? Well, it's not a fancy rainbow machine, I can tell you that much. PRISM is actually a secretive surveillance program that was run by the United States National Security Agency, NSA. It was designed to collect and analyze vast amounts of data directly from the servers of major tech companies like Google, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft. Yeah, the same platforms where you share your selfies, post about your day, and even store personal information. So, how did PRISM work? Essentially, the NSA used this program to tap into these companies' servers and extract emails, video chats, photos, stored data, and pretty much anything else that you might store or share online. And it wasn't just targeting specific people either. PRISM was about mass data collection, meaning they were pulling in information on millions of people, both in the US and around the world, all in the name of national security. The whole thing operated under the radar until 2013, when Edward Snowden, a former NSA contractor, leaked classified documents revealing PRISM's existence to the public. This caused a massive outcry because it exposed how deeply the government was invading the privacy of ordinary citizens. That's PRISM for you, scanning through your data without you even knowing. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'm not a criminal, so what do I have to worry about? Oh, my friend, that's where you're wrong. Surveillance isn't just about catching terrorists or criminals. It's about control. There are cameras, our microphones, our GPS trackers, and our personal diaries, all rolled into one. And that, my friend, is what makes them the perfect surveillance tool. Let's try to understand. Every time you use your smartphone to snap a picture, record a voice note, or check in at your favorite coffee shop, you're generating data. And where does that data go? Well, it doesn't just vanish into thin air. It gets stored, analyzed, and in some cases, handed over to the government. Ever wondered why the app you downloaded needs access to your camera, microphone, and location? It's not just so you can take better selfies, I promise you that. You see, the technology behind smartphone monitoring is pretty advanced. Governments can tap into your camera, listen to your conversations, and track your movements, all without you ever knowing. That sounds creepy, right? And here's the thing, a huge percentage of apps have access to your camera and microphone data. You might think you're just giving permission for that fun filter app, but in reality, you're opening a door for all kinds of surveillance. Studies have shown that around 70% of apps request access to sensitive data, and most people don't think twice before hitting allow. Now let's talk about who's really getting the short end of the stick here. Spoiler alert, it's the poor and average citizens, people like you and me. You see, surveillance isn't just about keeping an eye on the bad guys. It's about control, plain and simple. And who's easier to control than people who are already struggling to make ends meet? Think about it. If the government knows everything about you, what you buy, where you go, and who you talk to, they can use that information to manipulate and control you. And it's not just about selling you stuff you don't need. It's about steering you in a certain direction, making sure you stay in line, and keeping you from asking too many questions. It's like being on a giant hamster wheel, and no matter how fast you run, you're never getting anywhere. This kind of surveillance is especially dangerous for people who are already marginalized, low-income individuals, minorities, and anyone who doesn't fit the ideal citizen mold. These are the people who get targeted the most, whether it's through predatory advertising, social credit systems, or even direct government intervention. And the worst part, most of them don't even realize it's happening. You might think you're making your own decisions, but in reality, you're just following the moves they've laid out for you. All right, now let's dive into the juicy stuff, how the government is listening in on your conversations. You know that little microphone on your smartphone? Yeah, the one you use for voice notes or to yell at Siri when she can't understand what you're saying. Well, it's not just there for your convenience. Governments have figured out how to tap into these mics to listen in on your private conversations. And it's not like they have a guy in a dark room with headphones on, listening to every word you say. No, they've got AI and machine learning doing the dirty work for them. These systems are designed to pick up on certain keywords and patterns in your speech. So, if you happen to say something that raises a red flag, like bomb or protest, you might just find yourself on the government's radar. It's like having a spy in your pocket, listening to everything you say and making notes. Now, you might be wondering, isn't this illegal? Don't we have rights? Well, yes and no. You see, the government isn't exactly breaking the law, they're just bending it a lot. There are all sorts of legal loopholes that allow them to get away with this kind of surveillance. For example, did you know that by simply downloading an app and agreeing to the terms of service, you might be giving the government the green light to monitor you? Yep, that's right. Those pesky terms and conditions that nobody reads are basically a permission slip for the government to spy on you. And it's not just apps. Tech companies, the ones we trust with our data, sometimes cooperate with the government too. Whether it's through court orders, data sharing agreements, or even voluntary cooperation, these companies might be handing over your data on a silver platter. Here's where things get really scary. Most people have no idea this is happening. We live in a world where people are more concerned about how many likes they get on Instagram than about who might be watching them through their phone's camera. And it's not entirely their fault. The media doesn't exactly do a great job of covering these issues. Either they downplay it or they sensationalize it to the point where it sounds like a bad conspiracy theory. But ignorance isn't bliss, folks. Ignorance is dangerous. When people don't know they're being watched, they're less likely to protect themselves. They keep using the same apps, sharing the same personal information, and unknowingly feeding the surveillance machine. So, what happens when people stay in the dark? Well, let's just say it's not pretty. The more unaware people are, the easier it is for the government to tighten its grip. It's like a slow squeeze that you don't even notice until it's too late. And it's not just about the loss of privacy. This kind of surveillance can have real, tangible consequences. People have lost jobs, been denied loans, or even been arrested based on information that was collected through surveillance. And the worst part, most of them had no idea they were being watched in the first place. All right, now that I've thoroughly freaked you out, let's talk about what you can do to protect yourself. Believe it or not, there are ways to keep your privacy intact, even in this surveillance-heavy world. First things first, take control of your smartphone. Go into your settings and start disabling permissions that apps don't really need. So there you have it, folks. The government is watching us through our smartphones and most of us don't even realize it. But now you do. If this video opens your eyes, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the things they don't want you to know. Thanks for watching.